Ray Luskin, and welcome to the Winning Adventure. And my guest today is Andy Nathan, and he's welcome, Andy.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad you're on today. Andy is
Thank you.
my techie guru here, and he's teaching me all about how to bring creativity into my own online business. And so, welcome. I'd love for you to
Thank you.
tell everybody how you got started in this.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, very simple. I used to be in mortgages, and when the mortgage crash came, I was looking for different ways to market my business. And one of the things I started finding was this site called Twitter. And I actually had a friend of mine who had, actually was a mentor of mine. He, all of a sudden I looked on his Twitter account one day, and he had 11,000 followers. And I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Oh, it was real simple." He said, "I don't know if I could tell you. I'd have to kill you." I said, "No, dude, you have to tell me without killing me." And he said, "Yeah, I just started following people." And he said, "It was that simple." And so I started doing that, and I started engaging with people and talking to people. And after about 6 months, I said, I'm having more fun now with Twitter than I am with the mortgage market, especially because of the fact that at that time, everybody's loans felt like they were getting denied, and that's not really fun. So I got started with that, and I've just sort of built it from there. And I showed my dad how to do it one day, and he said, "You should turn that into a business." So I did.
Wow, that's great. So who inspires you? Or what else has inspired you? Besides your friend and this idea that I can have more fun.
Well, I mean, the fun is always inspiring. I think a lot of it is that with my wife, just making sure that I could help her out and just be contributing and having something that's really cool and that I could share with her. And I'm always inspired by her. And she had a blog back in like 2005, before most people even knew what blogs were. And it was one of the first times I had actually ever heard of a blog when I had met her. So I always get inspired by it. Like, as I tell her about stuff, and she said, "I used to do that." I said, "Okay." It's like,
I
so
used to do that, yeah.
yeah, she actually set up my first Facebook account in 2007 because she didn't feel like I would be capable enough to do it by myself. So for those of you who feel like you can't do it, it's okay. I've been there.
Well, thank you. You have been leading me. I mean, we actually started working. I met you a few years ago at a networking event, but we started working last year after Internet Profit Secrets. And I said, "Okay, Andy, you got to help me. I don't know anything about this stuff and moving forward." And you've been pushing me and saying, "Okay, now it's Google Plus," and I've been resistant. So today is our opportunity to start talking about Google Plus
Absolutely.
and Hangouts, and I'm getting to do my first one today. So I'm really excited because it's really I'm flying the plane as I learn, and hopefully everybody else can learn from this experience as well.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to help. Yeah, I've been over the last 6 months to the last year, I've really been more going towards Google Plus for social networking because it just, Facebook isn't what it used to be. I mean, when I used to go on Facebook, I would post a comment and you would have like 100 people talking about stuff, and you would meet new people every day. And we talk about creativity, and part of it is that a lot of what inspires me is being able to talk to other people and learning what they're doing and just building off of that. And I don't see that as much anymore on Facebook. A lot of it's family and friends, which is cool. It has its own place, and it's definitely important, and I do use it in that respect. But I want to be able to like meet new people, and over the past year on Google Plus, I've met so many more people there, and a lot of them have been through Hangouts like these.
Oh, that's great. So, why don't you give us a little basic rundown about how do you use Google Plus and some of the beginning steps? Because I know we've had to do that, and I say, "Andy, show me that. I don't know where that is. I can't find the button. I don't know what's going on." So if you would go through a little bit of that with us right now.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So I'm gonna do a screen share here, and so let's. Oh, I actually have a blog post open. I didn't realize that. That's okay. I'm just gonna do a screen share, and I'm going to go into my Google Plus account. And very simple, when you want to go to Google Plus, just so you understand what they've done, just for the basics here, if you're new to Google, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, actually, almost now, what was it, July of 2011, so 2.5 years, Google decided that they were going to create their own social network. And what they've done is they've incorporated it with your Gmail account, your YouTube account, all those other apps and features that you've probably been using for 10 years on Google. It's all incorporated now with Google+. So when you get to it, sort of like when you have your Facebook page, you get to Google+, and you go plus.google.com, and it looks similar to what your Facebook newsfeed would look like. And the great thing about this is that you could start seeing what people in your network are talking about. And if you want to start doing Hangouts, they even have the option, because you could actually, Hangouts are really great because it sort of works halfway like a chat and halfway like a video conferencing system. So on my right hand side, you could actually see people that I was talking to. Like I interviewed Yarrow Starrick on Tuesday, and I was just bringing this up for Startup Gap. So that was actually the interview I did with him, so you could see that. But at the same point, below that, you could actually see the conversation that we had in Hangouts. So now I'm with Ray right now, and if I wanted to click on the button, if I wanted to send her a message, sort of like doing an IM, I could actually do it from here on Hangout and say, hello. I don't know, since
I
you're on
see
the
it.
call with me.
Yeah. Okay.
You're on the call with me. I don't really know how much I have to
Right.
type in, but just to give you an idea, so it actually works like that. Now, if I wasn't on the call with her, I would just use this video call, and I can actually do something called the Hangouts. Now, there's two types of Hangout. There's a Hangout, and there's a Hangout on air. A Hangout is when if you want to just do a video chat with someone. So think like I have Skype open. So think like a Skype chat, a Skype video chat where you're talking to someone overseas. It's a voice over IP. It's a great way to connect with people if you're from different parts of the country, or different parts of the world. Like Michael Q. Todd, who's here, he's in Japan, and he's a really cool guy, by the way. If you've never talked to him, dude's like crazy smart. And so one of the things that if I want to talk to him about things, I can just contact him on Google Hangout, and we can have like a little text message going back and forth.
Is it limited just to one-on-one, or can you do more than one person at a time?
I'm glad you asked that. Well, you could do up to 10 people in a Google Hangout. You could do 10 people in a Google Hangout on air. Now, here's the cool thing about the Google Hangouts on air. So you go on the left-hand side, there's a scroll-down menu that you actually click on Hangouts. And I'm going to exit out of this one for Ray. And what happens is you could actually start a Hangout on air, and you could actually schedule it. Now, the Hangouts themselves are limited to 10 people being on the call. However, Hangout on air can be broadcast publicly on YouTube. So if you're watching this through the event page, you're watching through a YouTube-type link that's actually embedded on Google+. So what this does is it gives you the opportunity to share with infinitely greater amounts of people. In fact, President Obama, during his State of the Union address, he used a Hangout on air to broadcast the State of the Union address so people could watch it online. And they use this technology to do it because it's a way to publicly broadcast what you're talking about.
Okay. Can I want to go back just for a second. I need to, when you're doing the 10 people, can they speak like we are speaking, so they would be part of this conversation ongoing? But if it's on air, does that open it up so other people can like write in questions, or are they only listening?
If you're doing it on air,
yeah,
people could actually answer questions. There's actually something called the Q&A, and there's a comment live stream. So there's ways for people to actually ask questions during the event. So if people have a question, like I could see here, I had it open before, I had to download it again. You're probably seeing it downloaded, sorry. Yeah. There's actually a question here earlier from Ramadani Ahmed saying, what do you want, or what do we want to do? I'm not 100% sure because there's a missing pronoun there. But I could go through and I could answer that during the session. And we could actually go through here, and if there's anybody who has questions, we could go through and answer them live on air, sort of like you would do on a regular call show.
It's anybody of the 100 people, not just the 10.
Yeah, anybody could ask a question.
Okay, so you could use this almost like a panel discussion then if you have 4 or 5 people and they can answer anybody's question. So you could do it,
Absolutely.
set it up that way.
Absolutely. I was just on Wade Harmon does a number of shows on Google Plus, and he actually had who was it, David Oldenburg, Mark Seidel, and myself on. And I don't know if some people know that this David I'm actually going to have on Startup Gap next week. They're really cool guys, and basically Mark and Wade were the co-hosts, and David and I were the panelists. So we would be answering the questions, and then Mark and Wade could just and fill in for anything else. So it's a really great way to actually get involved in the process. And one of the things I really like about it is that instead of you waiting around for people to, instead of waiting around and wondering what people are asking, people could ask questions while you're talking, and they can post comments as well. That
Okay.
way it's more interactive. And that's what's the amazing thing about this, that it is an interactive medium. So do you want me to go back and show you how to
Yeah,
set it
why
up?
don't we why don't we do that?
Okay. So if I was to set up my own Google Hangout, and I'm not going to set this up right now, all I need to do is give it a name, then put a description in there, and then I could put in later and say the time that I want the Hangout to happen. And if I want this to be a public broadcast or if I want this to be a private broadcast, now, even though they say private broadcast, the YouTube videos do go public. So it's not like you're getting complete privacy. You could delist the YouTube videos, but it will be public for a little while. So I'm just telling you that because some people could have access to it for a little bit.
Okay, so
So
this really doesn't work if you want to have a closed group kind of discussion and record it.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things that people were asking because like they want to like have a membership run through here, and that doesn't really work. Now, what we're doing right now with Creative Edge, so this is the event that we created for Creative Edge. That's a public discussion, and this is a live Q&A. So if people have questions later on and they want to join in, they could join in. And you could see here that we have, like, it even shows, you could even see here once if people are just wanting to watch the video, you could see here that they have the picture of you on here,
Right.
and I'm going to press play, and it might be a little slow because I have the Hangout going as well, but I could press play, and I could actually, this is what it would look like. This is what it looks like for the participants right now.
Oh, so yeah, it's real live stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could even see like the YouTube and everything else down there, and then people could ask questions, and it is completely interactive. And you could even see the what do we want down here. And if I want to ask a new question, I could even go in here and type in not sure. I could, what you mean?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
oh, there's an error code, probably because of the fact that I have both of these on at the same time.
Okay.
But you get the point here. So,
Right, right. I got it. Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about creativity as we've been going over this, because when I
absolutely.
met you, you said, I'm really creative. And I was like, wow, okay. So what's your definition of creativity?
Okay. Well, I think creativity is thinking a little bit outside the norm. I think that a lot of times when people think about creative, it's you think about an artist. Like my mom's a graphic artist, and a lot of times she comes up with these amazing like images and things like that, and it's really cool, and I love it. And it's like she just took one of the pictures that I took, and I was in Venice, and she's using that. She's turning it into a watercoloring, and that's creative to a lot of people. That's how they normally traditionally define creative, and I agree, it is creative, and I don't think I could technically do that because I'm not an artist like that. What I'm creative with ideas, and part of it is with as an online marketer, you really do have to be creative because there's the technical hurdles that you sometimes have to overcome, like how do you use Google Plus is a simple
Right.
thing right there, but also how do you attract people to get in and be interested in what you're talking about, which is a psychology, and coming up with creative ideas to not only attract people in there, but also keep them interested in what you're talking about.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
no, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think for me, part of my mission is to broaden the definition of creativity. It's not just about being an artist. It's not about that. It's about an attitude. It's a mindset. It's how do you problem solve? Ultimately,
Yeah.
that's what I think everybody's got to realize. You're problem solving every day. Whether it's the first person who turned a corner down on a page of a book to keep their place. It's a creative solution. Or
Yeah.
putting your shoe in the door. Those every day we're faced with little decisions and choices we make, and so I really call it, it's a creative mindset. It's a mindfulness, and I think it applies really to business. We've had some discussions, and in the 21st century, they just did an Adobe study, and they did one with IBM executives, and they said 51% of them said creativity is a must. I mean, that is the number one skill to go forward in this country, period. So what you're
It's
doing is super. I mean, and taking that message further.
it's huge, and a lot of times I think as entrepreneurs you have to be creative, because part of the reason we're entrepreneurs is because if you're going to go out there and create a business, first of all, let's just think about that word. You're creating a business, and that act of creation means that you have to have some creativity to do that. You have to have a vision for what you want to do, and a lot of times when people work in an office, sometimes you get in a rut and you start following, because offices, large corporations are great. They have systems, they have benefits, they have all these nice things that you could do, and they pay for a lot of it as well, which is why a lot of people feel so comfortable being in an office environment. However, when you're also in an office environment, you sort of say, look, in exchange for working in this office environment, I'm going to give away a little bit of my creativity, a little bit of what I could say I want to do with my life in exchange for that. And I think part of that is it's an exchange of your creativity. And I know that a lot of times when people want to start up a business, they're doing it because they want to do something and they want to turn that vision into reality, which means it's turning that creative vision into something better. And I think that we get so confused about, like, hey, is it right to have a system that says that we should do X, Y, and Z when we all know that X, Y, and Z is really stupid? Like yeah, I
Yeah.
could give you plenty of examples of that, and I would, unfortunately, I'd have to tarnish the people I'd be talking about, so I'm gonna pass.
All right, we can pass on that. Well,
Yeah,
all right. So, how do you, get your juices going? How do you get your creativity moving? So I know you're a writer.
hmm
You've written some books. You've got some ebooks online right now, which you can tell people about,
yeah.
and you're a blogger. So tell everybody, how do you do that?
It's weird. It's not like one thing. If I do something a little bit different in my day, eventually I'll have like a brilliant idea. And what I've noticed is that, I really like to get into habit when I'm working on client projects, so I could actually get things done in an orderly, systemly manner. However, if I take one day out of that week and I make sure that I'm a little creative, like a lot of times on the weekends, I might not answer customer calls or emails as much just because I want to focus on my stuff. And I might go to Starbucks. And when I go to Starbucks, even though it's like 2 blocks away, the fact that I walked 2 blocks away and it was a difference from my house really makes a difference. And I could actually sit there and it's a different environment and I could enjoy that. I really like just changing it up a little bit. I think it also helps calm my entrepreneurial ADD, because I could come up with a million ideas, and if I stick to a routine for most of the week, then I won't come up. I won't be forced to like do something different every day. And then that one day a week, I could let it loose, and so I don't like pop my top. So
Okay, yeah, I like that. I think it's really important to change it up. Whether it's like you said, walk to Starbucks and work from there. I suggest to people all the time, just even taking your toothbrush and brushing your teeth with the other hand. Little things like that.
yeah,
Trying a new recipe, going to a new restaurant, driving to work a different way. Those all change it, because if you are observant and you
hmm
see things, you've got your ability to see, and you've also got the idea that you're creating new neural pathways every time you do something different. So
absolutely.
I think it's wonderful. So what do you do when you get stuck? So how do you get unstuck?
Oh man. Um,
And we all get creative, writer's block at some point,
well, I
or
get writer's block more than most because I
yeah.
write more than most. It's a lot of times I have to stop. Like, I mean, yeah, I do get because I write at least an article or two a day. I mean, that's it. It might go. I would love to be able to hit 3,000 words a day. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, because I think that sort of maxes out my potential to actually get good content. But I think for in terms of content, I'm if I get stuck, I get writer's block. I know that a lot of times it's just I need to stop and then walk around. I'll make a call. I have to stop looking at the computer. A lot, I know this might not be the best idea for everybody. I sometimes want brainless TV. I want to watch something that for an hour where I don't have to think and I can turn off my mind. And it's not because I just necessarily need the TV, but after I'm done, I can come back and I have a fresh approach. And I think part of it is that when you're writing, you're being creative. You could be creative for 12 hours, but once you hit that 13th hour and you're like, oh man, you just can't keep it going. I mean, it's
If
really
you're
about
writing,
keep refreshing.
if you're writing 2 articles a day, how are you getting your ideas? I mean, where do you go for inspiration and to
Um,
keep motivated for that?
Well, a lot of it is okay. Like I do a weekly startup gap post, so I do two weekly startup gap posts. One is someone from history, and then I do an interview, and a lot of the interview is like just taking notes on what they said. So I'm not really like having to just completely create that. So that helps. I might comment on what they're saying, and it's sort of more like commentary, I would say, than just 100% creation of the article. The other thing is I have a few clients where I have one client, they want me to do interviews and case studies. So again, I have to come up with the questions and come up with the ideas, but then a lot of that revolves around just talking to them and finding out. So yeah, I guess a lot of that answer is how do I come up with it? If I'm writing articles for clients, if I'm writing articles about other people, I'm sort of thinking about what they're talking about and just putting a new spin on it. And that's not as hard. Coming up with something from scratch is hard, but coming up with something that it's modified, like a client will say, "Here's what I want you to write about." Like I've done
Right,
articles for you.
right.
You have an idea of what you want, so I'll say, "What do you want to talk about?" And you'll say, "I want to talk about creativity this month," and that sets me off because if you give me an idea of where, like when I like,
Right, I know we started a conversation in the beginning when I was,
yeah,
everybody, I was terrified. I didn't know how to write a blog. I was terrified more of doing WordPress. So Andy
yeah,
walked me through this, and he wrote a few of my beginning blogs and, about Lincoln and courage. And we started going through this process, but it was you went on Yahoo, I think, and started or looking, or AOL, or
Google,
looking
yeah.
on Google and finding out titles and things like that, and you were paying attention to how many articles are written on that subject and things like that, which I would never have even occurred to me.
Yeah.
So
And I don't do as much keyword research as I used to because Google has changed so much. Even since when we started, I think we started doing those a year and a half ago. And in the last year and a half, Google is they've added a new algorithm that completely changes how they even do their search features. So what I was doing 2 years ago or a year ago, I can't even do today. It's kind of crazy that respect, but
right. I mean, you've taught me a lot of things, because I have to say, when I write my WordPress now, I'm actually paying attention to the title, how many
yeah,
times for SEO, and all these things. So I have learned things slowly.
okay.
Andy is a great teacher, so I want to let you all know that. Why don't you talk a little bit about about your company and how you can help people?
Okay. You make me blush, by the way. Um, yeah, there's two parts of what I do. The first part is the service part, where I actually will do the services for clients, and that's what I started in 2009. Been doing it almost 5 years now, and a lot of that is that I realize that a lot of small business owners don't want to necessarily sit on Facebook or Twitter and eventually their blog or wherever it is online and do the marketing all day, and that's the stuff that I find fun. And that's really been my bread and butter. Over the last 6 months, I've been getting more and more into actually creating content for a membership and some other things that I'm working on. I'm having a book that's going to be coming out in July of 2014 called Startup Gap. I wrote a book last year called E-Marketing Experience, and I just came out with a free ebook well, it's free this week, called 30-Minute Businesses. It's going to be a whole 99 cents after this. It's actually a redo of a book I actually did in 2009, and I sort of just updated it. But it's 30 businesses you could start in 30 minutes. And what I've realized is that I'm starting to get to the point in my business where I want to just be able to teach more people, and I want to get to the one to many. And doing services is really fun, but I like it when I could share this and like, hey, look, 100, 1,000 people saw this. That's kind of cool. It's like it gets my. You asked me about what inspires me earlier, and that sort of inspires me that I can make a bigger difference. And I think maybe that's part of creativity is that we're creative because what we like to do is we want to make a difference in what we're doing.
You said it beautifully, because I always ask people what's the legacy they want to leave. What kind of difference do you want to make, and you're telling me. So I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, if you want to find out more, I guess startupgap.com. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, you're you know what, part of it is that you've had me. You've used my services, so you could probably say it better than I could.
Like I said, Andy has moved me from being like I'm terrified of doing this, and now I do WordPress. I've done my first Hangout. He's helping me get circles. So Andy's been really helpful. He taught me so much, and I just he got me going into an online business, and I didn't have that. I knew about it, but you actually took me through the steps. You set up my Aweber accounts and did all that, and I didn't know how to do any of that. Even the opt-in, I mean, all those things. I knew I needed it, but until I had Andy, I didn't know how to do it.
Well,
And
Ray, also the other thing is you were more willing to do it when you got in. Part of it is that part of what like I would like to say just to clarify because I as much as I say yeah it was all me, no, it was even when we got started you had a better definition of what you wanted to do than some of my clients who were getting started because you had actually been online for a little while, so you had taken those first steps. It wasn't like I actually I have some clients, and it's fine. I created their social media accounts for them because they didn't have them.
right,
You had the accounts. Now, granted, a lot of times I'm not doing as much social media creation accounts anymore as I used to because most people have a Facebook account, most people have a LinkedIn and a Twitter account. But it's the point is that you were sort of at a point where you wanted to put it into a full system, and I think also the fact that Internet Profits Live, you brought it up earlier. That was even for me that because you said that was like sort of a stepping point where you actually said, "Hey, I want to do that." One of the things that I realized at that point was that I want to start creating more content in terms of that's a better way of me doing my business, and it sort of changed everything because once that was done, I made it a point to finish up eMarketing Experience, that ebook, and I did it within 60 days of Internet Profits. So 60 days afterwards, I launched that, and I didn't get a lot of sales from the book. However, I picked up a client from that who has me write ebooks for them every month, which I never would have had the courage to do if it hadn't been for that. So it was a true turning point. And actually, I should probably contact Steve Volcher and tell him I want him on Startup Gap, and then I should tell him I should do a testimonial for him at the end.
I interviewed him for my book, The Winning Adventure. So why not? Yeah. So he is one of those people who is out there and he knows everybody. So he's a great contact.
Absolutely.
One of the last question I'm going to ask you before we end is, so what should people do who are getting started? What advice do you have for them?
It's getting started is the easy part. I know people think that it's so hard. Once you get started and you actually take that first step, it's not that hard. All it is that you have to just keep doing it day in and day out. And really, if you could be consistent at one thing every day, it will make a difference in your business. I know when I got started, one of the things is in 2010, I made a commitment to myself. I said, I'm going to blog every day for a year. I didn't even understand what the heck that meant back in 2010. I conceptually got it, but I didn't really understand what it was. And initially, I had a blog that was all about Twitter. And after about 90 days, I ran out of stuff to say about Twitter because there's only so much stuff you could talk about a site with 140 characters.
Right.
So I started expanding out past that, and I started going into all these different topics. And if it wasn't for the fact that I hadn't started that blog, I never would have really studied more about WordPress. I mean, I had a WordPress site, but I didn't understand what the heck I was doing with it. I felt like every week I would break it. I actually I didn't even back up my site for the first 7 months, which when you think about it, if I was blogging, well, I was blogging 5 days a
Is
week, not
mine set
seven.
up so it does that? I don't even know. I assume you
Yeah,
help. Yeah, it
yeah,
backs it up, so I don't even know that.
yeah. You have a backup. Hold on. I know I backed it up at. I think when I backed it up within the last month. Hold on.
Okay, well, I didn't know that, so
You're
it's like,
making me check this now because I'm like, I know I backed it up. So, but yeah, we set up a, yeah, there's something called the Backup Buddy, which is one of the best plugins ever for WordPress because it's a premium plugin, so it costs like 100. I think I have the like developer license, but it's yeah, you have Backup Buddy on here, and it basically I don't think I have it on auto backup for you because I don't think I have a place to auto back it up to in terms of scheduling it. If you want, we could do that afterwards. But I
okay,
backed it up last month, and so if anything ever happens, like we might want to back it up again, just because there's probably a few pages that need to be backed up, which I might just do right now while we're talking.
okay,
Um, but if anything ever happens to your site, that way all I need to do is there's like a little thing like I import it and it takes me 5 minutes.
okay,
Well, I'm not that good at it, so it might take me 10, but I generally call my web developer and then it takes me 5 minutes.
okay,
So, but yeah, it's really simple. It backs up your entire site in here. I just did. I'm doing it while we're talking right now because you reminded me to do it.
okay. Well, Andy, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Best way to get in touch with me is go to startupgap.com, and if you have any questions, you could go startupgap.com/contact. And if you're interested in the ebook, go to amazon.com and go 30-minute business. Just type in search and type 30-minute businesses. So, and then thank you, Ray, by the way, because you are awesome.
Ah, thank you. All right. Thanks, Andy. This was wonderful. As I said, I've learned a lot just by being on this call, and now I can say I've done my first hang up. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.